We asked 7 Agri-King experts what they're seeing right now. Here's one.
Past year's corn silage is a little bit down in NDF and starch digestibility, but tonnage was good.
That's just one example of what we're hearing across the field. Here's what else came out of it.
We had our field nutritionists from the West Coast of the United States to the East Coast of the United Kingdom. And Chris and I thought it would be interesting to grab a few of those people and get an update on what livestock agriculture is doing in their world. So with that, we're going to jump right into the clips.
I'm Nicole Glines. I'm the regional manager for the New England territory. So we take care of all the New England states, trying to grow our presence up there. And so that's mostly dairy farms up in that area, dairy and forage producers.
How long have you been in that world in this role?
In this role with Agri-King, I've been with Agri-King for 9 years. I started off just as a consultant and sort of moved through a few different roles within the company. And so now it's kind of nice to be able to put some energy into other folks and grow the territory that way instead of just being sort of on my own up there. So it's been
Wonderful.
a journey.
So you're going to be our representative from the Northeast part of the country. What's the things farmers are excited about going into spring of this year? What's the buzzword, or what are people looking forward to?
I think just spring. It's been a really long winter up in New England. I'd say the last year weather-wise has been a challenging one. We had a summer last year that started off super duper wet, that then went super duper dry. We had a lot of challenged crops, not a lot of crop. And so a lot of people are tight on feed. Feed quality just wasn't there. So I think just seeing the sun coming out and things are just starting to green up the last week or two, there's a lot more optimism and just energy to get out and give it another go. And hopefully my hope is with long snow cover like we don't have winter kill, we can get off to a good start. So I think they're excited about that. Beef prices have been amazing. Calf prices have been amazing. So that's really helping some folks out. And I think with that, having a background in calf health, I am excited to see that there's a revitalized interest in young stock on farms. So it's nice to see people putting some energy and resources into those little guys and developing them well.
Anything from a crop or feeding standpoint that seems to be a popular, I'm going to try this type of topic this year?
Um, I think more and more, as a lot of other areas are seeing, there's some consolidation happening on farms. And with that, previously, I think New England, we had barely enough land base to produce enough forages for a farm. And so grains were not really a thing. So it's been really interesting the last 5 or so years, just seeing more and more combines showing up in the States.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So more people trying, doing their own high moisture corn, playing around with soybeans. Now people are asking about plenish beans. So you hear about all these talks on plenish beans and what they can do. So I'm kind of excited that we'll be able to try them in our area with more people and see what results we can have. So
Well, that is a wonderful update. Thank you so much for being here.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Noah Guestford from Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. Cover a couple different counties in south central Pennsylvania. Working primarily with dairy, beef, and some independent swine guys that are still involved. The few we have left.
What's the year looking like in your world?
Uh,
What are people excited about getting and just getting back out and getting in the fields is sort of a good thing, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, what are people looking forward to?
So, I mean, right now a lot of guys are excited. We have rye that's starting to come off. Had a few clients text me here. They're actually already started mowing. Looking pretty good. We're a little dry in Pennsylvania right now, but overall things are going pretty good. A lot of guys are excited for thinking thoughtfully or thinking positively for next year's corn silage, because this past year's corn silage is a little bit down in NDF and starch digestibility, but tonnage was good. So, but there's definitely some good positives out there, and guys seem to be pretty good. Milk is slightly starting to creep up a little bit, so there's a lot of good things going on.
Anything from the cropping or forage production side that people are going to be trying this year in your world?
I can't speak to necessarily a lot of like prospect clients, but I can with like some of my clients I'm dealing with, working with with my regional manager. We were looking at past data from if they were a long time Agri-King client or even, just the past few years, but taking 4-year average samples and compiling it on an Excel sheet and looking at, all the mineral contents and whatnot. Okay, well, our triticale from 2018 to 2022 did this, and now 2022 to 26, we're here. What changed? And yes, weather, degrees, rain, everything plays a role in that. But and even varieties they're planting, that all changes. But at the end of the day, we want to constantly improve forage quality. That's what we do. So I think that's a huge thing that I'm doing right now with my clients.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, Noah, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate your time.
Have a good one. Appreciate it.
I'm Brad Woodland, and I'm located in Orrville, Ohio, which is about straight south of Cleveland, about 50 miles. Wayne County, Ohio, the largest dairy county in the state of Ohio. Basically, I cover all of Ohio and part of Western Pennsylvania as a regional manager.
Okay. What are some of the dominant types of animal agriculture in the world you work in?
Mostly 100% dairy. We do some beef nutrition, mostly in the western part of the state. I would say that's probably about 20% of our business, but most of it is all dairy feed.
Okay. So it's springtime. People are starting to be able to get out to the fields. What's general mood of spring in your world?
Right now, we're a little bit wet. We were very dry, actually below, precipitation rates for the year, but we've caught up quite nicely. We've had some 6-inch rains and flooded basements and flooded fields. But actually, it kind of slowed down fertilization of our cover crops, but that has kind of caught up, and I think that's moved forward quite a bit.
Wonderful. So going into, I know New Year started in January for most people, but sometimes the farm year seems to start in spring, at least to a degree. Anything from a cropping or forage standpoint that the dairymen in your world are excited about trying this year or glad to be going back to?
The most specific thing is we've had so many people switch on the cover crop side of things to the triticale. We used to try to do a lot of rye and those types of things, but the window to make that is so difficult in our state. We got about 5 minutes to cut it correctly. Where the triticale has moves that window out another week to 10 days into May. And so I would assume we're going to start harvesting that probably not next week, but at least the following week. That there's going to be a lot of mowers going to the field for that.
Okay.
We've already had a couple people make rye. Even this week before we actually come out here to the meeting. So that is what's going to be next. We have had quite a few guys kind of switch back. There was a lean towards getting away from alfalfa, and actually that's kind of moved back a little bit to where we got some guys putting in some seedings and stuff like that. So a little bit of a change in the dynamic just over time, and I think experience.
What do you think is the driver for that? Because I've seen the same tendency in a lot of areas.
Well, I think protein.
I was guessing that was it.
And there was a couple springs where we had a little bit of a failure in the triticale side of it, where it didn't quite produce what they wanted.
Oh.
And so I think from a milk per acre standpoint, they're looking at alfalfa being a little bit better, and crop rotations, soil stewardship. Some of those things are starting to come back into play, I think.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you so much for giving us an update. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Good to be with you.
Abe Gibbs, live in Western Ohio, born and raised, not on a cattle operation, started later in life in my cattle business, joined Agri-King in 2011 and focused in the beef.
Perfect. Well, one of the things we wanted to be able to do, since we've got our nutrition consultants here from across the country and overseas, is get a little bit of an idea where spring work is in your world. Seems like a popular topic. Is corn going in the ground getting too wet? What's the situation like?
So I cover Western Iowa all the way back to Ohio. And 2 weeks ago, you started to see a little crop work happen in Western Iowa. As you come across, you get into Illinois and Indiana, and back home in Ohio, we're just getting ready, but we never start before Easter or before tax day. So we're just getting ready to kick it off.
So it's about to blow up big time. In the world you cover, what are some of the things that beef producers are optimistic about going into spring, summer of 2026?
Just the high market. They do say that high prices cure high prices, but at this point, our cow numbers are so low that we're not going to see that decline short term. Not long term, maybe, but short term, we're at high prices.
What are some of the challenges that you can see coming with that?
I think we've talked about there's a hole in the market for the last 3 years, and then we've got all these things that compounded. But I think we will run out of money before we run out of cattle. Meaning, if your operation has 1,000 head of cattle and used to have a $3 million operating note, now you can only buy 600 cattle with your $3 million operating note, and the bank's not going to increase that. So there's the obstacle is we are going to run out of funds before we run out of the cattle.
Which in turn will help keep demand
Keep
up,
prices.
keep prices good.
Absolutely.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining
Absolutely.
us, Abe. I appreciate your time. Have a good rest of your spring.
Thank you.
My name's Trevor Radcliffe, and I live in kind of central Kentucky. I'm part of the beef team and do beef nutrition consulting for Agri-King, and I cover pretty much anywhere they let me go, but for the most part, Kentucky, Michigan, Iowa, and Tennessee are where I'm at the most.
Okay. Well, as we do this, it's April of 26, and all farmers are in various stages of spring planting, getting cows on pasture. What's the state of those types of things in your world right now?
Cows are going on pasture. We need some rain. We're a little dry, but beans are going in the ground. Soil is just about there. I would guess in the next 5 to 7 days, corn will start going in. But we need a little bit of rain. That's the only, other than that, temperatures are right, just a little dry.
Trevor mentioned that he works on the beef side, but across a pretty big area. So in general, or as specific as you want to be, what's some things beef producers are optimistic about going into later spring, summer of 2026?
I don't know if you guys follow along, but the cattle prices are fairly high right now, and consumers are what's driving that. Consumers are still eating beef, going to the grocery store, and keeping the prices where they are. It's been really great for the cow-calf guy. Cow-calf people have taken it on the chin over the last few years, and the last few years, as of recent, they've been able to claw their way back and actually get ahead. So that's been really good for them. And the fat cattle are just doing really well, and we're figuring out how we can grow them bigger to battle the shortage of actual animals. But not really be short on actual meat produced.
Any advice you're giving people right now about what to do in the next 6 months, rest of 26?
No, to be honest, I try to stay out of that a little bit because if the market takes a dip, I don't want to be the one that recommended them to buy.
I can respect that. That's good. Well, Trevor, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Andrew Arns, and I'm in the central part of Michigan.
So where you're located, are you in an area more dairy, fair amount of dairy and beef? What's the farming world like where you're from?
Right where I'm at, the central part is predominantly dairy.
Okay.
Not much of any beef.
So in April of 26, what are the dairies in your area looking forward to?
We've had a bit of some rains here, which was welcomed as we were dry last fall. So a lot of dairymen are getting antsy to empty out their manure storage. So that's what everybody's focused on right now, and then obviously crops will be following after that. So we're just kind of sitting tight, waiting for a dry spell.
At what point does it start being late to get those things done? When is corn going to be pushed back because manure still hasn't been pumped?
I'd say if they don't get started applying by mid-April, it'll push back planting time. Some dairies are set up to, they may have somebody come in to drag lines so they can do both, but generally when they're injecting manure, it needs another couple, a week or two to dry after that. So guys are definitely getting anxious. Like it needs to be, hopefully in the next week, they can start emptying manure pits.
In your world, do people try to empty their manure pits in the spring, or is it a case of getting enough out now to do it again during the summer, and they don't really try to get empty until fall?
You know, honestly, every farm's they do it different. When it gets this late, generally they try to get just enough off so they can kind of move on to planting. So that just all kind of depends where it's at in the cycle. But I feel this year most guys are gonna be looking to just minimally get rid of just what they need to so they can move on to so it doesn't delay planting anymore.
So right now they're more worried about being too wet than happy that it's not a drought.
Yes.
Well, hey, thank
Definitely
you.
the feeling.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
My name's Adrian Baker, and I'm the beef nutritionist at the home office. So I kind of help handle all the beef diets that we do for Agri-King.
One of the things I think's got to be a little unique for you, Dr. Baker, is the time at these meetings you get to spend face to face with people that you otherwise spend a lot of time with on the phone. There's some benefits to you by that, finally getting face to face with people.
Oh yeah, it's always good to catch up, because a lot of times we'll spend a lot of time on the phones, especially we're feeding cattle all the way from Georgia, Florida, all the way. We've got cattle on feed in Oregon, so we're covering a good chunk of the country. And so it's tough to be everywhere at once. So there's a lot of phone calls, Zooms. You get a lot of I call it all FaceTime. That's not what we're doing. I don't have an iPhone. But so you're looking at things. It's always good to actually sit in the same room with someone and visit and kind of catch up. And
Well, I'm not gonna make you sign a paper and declare this is what the market's going to be for the foreseeable future. That seems horribly unfair and sets us up for failure. But in April of 26, what are you seeing in the beef world right now? What catches your interest? Where do you think the opportunities are?
well, I think the opportunities are going to be, um, pretty much from a health standpoint, and that's going to be moving forward. We're pushing I'm not seeing anything that says, even if everybody starts retaining heifers today, we're a year or two out before we really see the impact of that. So, each individual animal is important, and so those costs I think are going to maintain high. The question mark would be to me would be the Mexican border with the screwworm. But with that, transition, cattle, receiving cattle, moving cattle, I think now more than ever, trying to take care of them, doing little things like transitions, going that extra mile, maybe an extra transition diet, um, things we didn't used to do in the past because maybe cattle were cheap, feed was high. Well, we're completely inverse. So, in the grand scheme of things, you look at, say, you get a $3,000 8-weight calf, right? Um, you start looking at that versus another day or two on feed because you took an extra day or two to transition them a little slower or go a little longer and things like that. Does it really matter? No, when you start penciling out that, what that a lost calf's going to cost you on a pen of steers, it makes sense to take it a little easier. You want to push, keep pushing, but just transition slower into that push and not try to hit it as hard so to keep that mortality low and try to keep your morbidity low as well.
That sounds like good ideas and good sense.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Have a good one.
Hey, that was really interesting. I hope everybody out there listening enjoyed getting a little bit of a glimpse. It is a special time for us. We can all get together. As a general rule, we work very remotely, and it's just fun to see people exchanging ideas and finding out the different ways to be right. I think there's a lot of that kind of thing that goes on at these meetings. So Chris, you sat through the meeting and helped put this together. What did you come away with?
Hey, Mike, my big takeaway is I was fascinated with that everybody all across the world, they're doing this similar thing, but yet everybody has their own little like bent and just how they're doing that, like whether it's still different ways of doing the same thing right. And I was fascinated with like how everybody has their own little story to tell, and I think that's hopefully that's something that comes across through this podcast. So if you like what we talked about and you want to hear more, you can email us at podcast@agriking.com. And if you're listening to us on whatever platform you listen to us, give us a review. And I think that's all we got. Mike, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Chris.